So you have taxes and income in the beginning of this unit. And everything kind of ties back to these two things in this entire unit, okay? So the first thing we're going to look at are types of income because there's two types, okay? So when you're working and you get a paycheck, your net income is what you get to take home, okay? This is after taxes. So if you think about, if you have a big net, your net income are all the dollars that you get to keep. This is after taxes are deducted, okay? Your net income is what you get to take home, what you get to keep. You'll see this word a lot in all of this unit. Deducted just means taken out. If I deduct $238.74 from your paycheck, I take it out of your income. Does that make sense? You're going to see deducted a lot. Net income, super important. Then there's something else called your gross income. This is before taxes. And if you think of something gross, is that good or bad? Okay, I always tell people to think about when you see your paycheck and what you were going to get and what you ended up with, you feel like kind of upset because you're like, oh my gosh, I was going to make $800, but I only got to take home $623.84. So I always think about like gross is how you feel when you see that big number and you're like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard for all that money and I only got to take home this. Like your first paycheck, it'll be a shock because you won't realize how much is taken out until after you've been through it. So your gross is before taxes. This is going to be the bigger number, okay? If you can remember, your gross income is going to be the bigger paycheck income number. Your net income is smaller than gross. It's just the way it is, friends. Does this make sense? There's different types of taxes, and that's kind of what I'm going to introduce to you now because the different kinds of taxes sometimes confuse people. With your income tax, this is from your job, okay? This is tax on money that you make. I always say it's money you have coming in for all the work you do, okay? So with your income tax, there's different types of taxes. We don't get too far into it in fifth grade, thank goodness, because it's kind of confusing. But the main ones you have to look at are federal income taxes, federal income tax goes to the IRS. Raise your hand if you've heard of the IRS before. The IRS is the government entity that will come and find you if you are not following the rules and paying your federal income tax. You don't want to be in trouble with them. There are some states that have a state income tax. Not Texas. Thank goodness. Okay? But if you live in California, you have to file 2 tax returns in the spring when you file your taxes, because you have to pay the state of California a chunk of money based on your earnings, and you pay the IRS money too. Colorado, California, in the Northeast, most of those states have a state income tax too. It's usually much smaller than the federal. Not usually, it always is much smaller than federal income tax. But then you'll see they'll give you paycheck stubs and it'll say other taxes. When you see other taxes, just look at that as the stuff they're going to teach you after 5th grade that's more confusing, so we wait, okay? With other taxes, it's talking about your Social Security, Medicare, like there's other taxes that you guys don't need to learn about this year, okay? So that stuff is all automatically deducted from your paycheck. Then there's another type of tax that's much simpler. Your sales tax is the tax they charge you on what they sell you. Okay? You say it like my one of my aunts in South Texas. If you think about sales tax is what they charge you for what they sell you. If I go to Best Buy and buy a TV, they have to collect sales tax on that TV. If I go to the Galleria and go shopping, everything I buy there has sales tax. So sales tax is tax on what you buy, okay? Or what they sell you. Just remember, if they sell you something, they got to charge sales tax. There are some things that are tax exempt. If I go buy milk, HEB may not charge me tax on that milk. If I buy bread, if I buy cheese, there's certain items. Next time your parents go to HEB or Randall's, grab the receipt and look at the bottom and see if there's any sales tax. Most of the time, if they buy straight food, there's none. But if they buy light bulbs and batteries and other stuff like that, there's some things that are not tax exempt. So it's interesting to see at the bottom of the receipt what you pay sales tax on and what you don't. In Texas, it's about 8 cents on every dollar, okay? So if I spend $10 on something, I can't just go hand them $10 and say, here's my 10. They're going to want 80 cents more for the sales tax. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So sales tax is another big one. And then there's one last one I'm going to talk to you about today, and we're just going to focus on these and practice these concepts, and that's property tax. Property tax is the tax you got to pay for your house or land, property that you own, house, land, things like that. These are usually big money purchases, okay? If I had to pay 8 cents a dollar on the house that I bought 3.5 years ago, I couldn't have afforded my house. Okay, they have a different set of tax rules for big item things. Because going and buying a $500 TV and buying a $300,000 house or a $500,000 house is really different. It's a lot more money. They can't collect the same amount of tax on the house as they do the TV or the pair of shoes or whatever it is. Does that make sense? This page right here has all the things that kids miss the most, okay? If you can get these vocabulary terms down, this whole section's a piece of cake, okay? With property tax, the way it's calculated, it seems confusing when you first look at it, but you're just multiplying something like 7 cents times $13. You guys can multiply decimals. We've been doing it all year long. So when you look at the tax and income questions, this is what you need to focus on. Net and gross, number one things, kids flip it. If you flip it around and pick the other one, it's wrong, okay? Number one thing kids miss is they flip that. Income tax has all to do with my job and my paycheck. Sales tax, what I buy. Property tax, big stuff. House, boat, land, cars, okay? So you pay for a registration on your car every year with the state. They collect a little bit of money because I own that property and I have it registered in the state of Texas. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. This page, I could probably skip the whole rest of it and you'd be okay. But I want to show you real quick before we move on what one of these problems might look like. And I'm going to show you one that you're actually going to see tomorrow. And I want to show this to you because I want to show you how easy it is. It's going to look confusing at first, but I'm going to show you two problems here and just kind of focus on how to not be confused. It's not hard once you know how to set it up. So this problem says, what is the sales tax on an item that costs $33.50 if the sales tax is 6 cents on every dollar? Okay, when you get to middle school, you learn percentages. They keep it to where it's easier for you guys. Okay, if I spend $1, I pay 6 cents. If I spend $2, I have how much in taxes? 12 cents. Can you guys multiply by 6? Yes. So on sales tax ones, you're figuring out how many cents per dollar and then multiplying $33.50 times 6 cents. In this problem, how many spots would I move the decimal over at the end? 4. You haven't seen a lot like this, so I wanted to show you. You have to pay attention to how many bunny hops you do at the end. Be really careful. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks funny, but you're just jumping 4 times at the end. Would I need to multiply 0 times everything on here, or could I just jump after I multiply 33.50 times 6? Do I have to do the 0? No, you're just going to have a row of zeros, guys. Skip it, okay? But you do have to jump 4 times at the end. Make sense? Give me a thumbs up if this looks pretty easy. I will say there's one problem on here. I'm going to look over it with you guys because it's a little different, okay? This one says she buys a new car for $21,000. She pays a sales tax of 6 cents for every dollar. She pays a property tax of $16.80 on every $1,000. If the property tax is paid once a year, what are the total taxes on the car for the year? I'm going to show you how to do this one now because this is the one you're going to struggle on when you get to it. Okay? Because this has 2 types buried in one. I have sales tax and I have property. Okay? The car costs $21,000. The sales tax is 6 cents for every dollar. What am I going to multiply 6 cents by on this one? Harper? So you're going to do 21,000 times 6 cents. How many decimal place value spots am I going to jump on that? No, this is a comma. This is a decimal, just 2, okay? But then it says she pays a property tax of $16.80 on every $1,000. Would I do $16.80 times $21,000? No. How many thousands do you hand me if you're paying me in cash $21,000? 21. So you're doing $16.80 times 21 because this is different. This is on thousands and this is on dollars. Does that make sense? Do you see why you have to calculate it different? Because isn't there a big difference between $16.80 and 6 cents? 6 pennies and $16.80 are a really big difference. That's why they only charge that on every 1,000 instead of on every dollar, because you wouldn't be able to afford the car. Does that make sense? Your sales tax would cost more, so much more than the car, it wouldn't make sense to buy it. Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense. Okay, great. So those